Hi guys, it's Nick, the ASMR nerd, and today I'm gonna talk with you guys about some video games. Specifically, I'm going to talk about my favorite games of E3 2018. E3, for those of you who maybe don't know, is the premier video games industry trade show. It takes place in sort of early to mid-June every year, and this year was a really great show. There were some really cool reveals and announcements, and we also got to see more of some games that were revealed previously, like last year or even the year before in some cases. And I've made a list here of my top 10 games that had some kind of showing at E3 this year. This is my personal list, of course, and I should point out it's fairly PC-centric, I guess. Well, not actually looking at it, it's pretty diverse. But I am primarily a PC gamer, so that's the perspective I tend to come from. But I do have a Switch, and there's at least one Switch game on here. But anyway, you'll see as we go through. So this is my personal top 10. But before we dive in, I'd like to, of course, invite you to participate by letting me know down below in the comments what your top games of E3 2018 were as well, because I like to, hear what people are excited about. Maybe we can discuss it down there a bit in the comments. And this is just going to be a chill, kind of casual chat. To those of you who hang out on my streams, who come on out every Sunday to my Twitch channel, which is, by the way, in case you don't know, twitch.tv/theasmrnerd. For those of you who come there, this is going to be a pretty familiar format. I'm sitting here in front of my computer, chatting very informally, and I've even got some beer to share with you guys tonight. Well, I'm not sharing it. I can't pass it through the camera to you, unfortunately, but I wanted something just to sip on. It's very warm here right now where I'm at. It is a warm evening. I was going to make some tea because tea is nice and relaxing, but it's just too hot for tea. So I've got just a kind of a tasty beer here that I tried earlier. It's this guy right here. I'll show it off to you. I know a lot of you don't care, but I know some of you do. So this is the Fantoma Pomegranate Dark Saison from Phillips Brewing, which is a local craft brewery here in my town. So I'll pour that out and I'll be sipping on that. Maybe you can get a drink of your own so you can just kick back and relax while we chat, right? There we go. Pours this beautiful dark ruby color. You might not even quite be able to tell on camera because it's so dark, but with this kind of slightly off-white head, fairly thin, but it's got this beautiful fruity flavor. I know you didn't sign up for a beer tasting, so I'll keep this quick, but it's really good. I was surprised actually how delicious it is. Quite like it. All right, let's talk video games, guys. So, the first game on my list here is a game that we barely heard about at E3 2018, and I almost didn't include it because there was no title card for it. There was no art, certainly no cinematic. There was almost nothing. This game is Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. And this was announced by the studio, is he the studio head? He might be the VP, I can't remember. Vince Zampella is his name anyway, and he's at Respawn Entertainment, and those are the guys responsible for Titanfall. And they have been hard at work for at least a couple of years now on a Star Wars game. And we know very, very little about it. It's probably an action game. There's a good chance that it's a shooter, since that's what Respawn is known for. But beyond that, we knew almost nothing. And really the only piece of information, or two pieces of information, were added at this year's E3. It was, I guess, officially confirmed, because I don't know if it had been officially confirmed before. It might have just been rumored to be in development. I can't remember. But anyway, they gave us the name, which is Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. And they told us that it's going to be set between episodes 3 and 4, which makes sense given the name, doesn't it? So I suspect we're going to be playing Jedi on the Run. Perhaps, maybe we'll get to play as Obi-Wan, maybe Yoda, but Jedi in hiding after the Order has fallen. This is a period of the Star Wars lore that Disney seems very keen on fleshing out. What with Rogue One and Solo, of course, and it sounds like they've got a number of other movies planned in this era between episodes 3 and 4. And I am happy with that, because I like that era actually quite a bit. It has that very classic Star Wars feel with those really like gritty kind of designs, those really lived in looking environments, those really beat up kind of looking costumes and vehicles and stuff, harkening back to the original Star Wars, obviously. And yeah, anyway, I love that, and Jedi are always cool, always down for some lightsaber action. But I really wish we had seen more of this game at E3. It just seems like such a tease to just give us a name, and the way the information was delivered was really weird. It was like just this kind of side note in the EA press conference. So anyway, but I'm excited to hear that Respawn is working on this Star Wars game. I'm keen to see what it is, just because, I mean, the Star Wars license has been so squandered by EA, hasn't it? Do you remember the golden age of Star Wars games? It seemed like there was another Star Wars game coming out every year at least, and there were some games that weren't so great, but there were a lot of really good ones too, like the Jedi Knight series, the Dark Forces, right? Like X-Wing and TIE Fighter going back, even further. You've got all kinds of stuff. Shadows of the Empire, like just so many great games. Empire at War. All right, so that's my number 10 game, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. If we had seen anything of it, it might be higher on my list, but it's just such a unknown quantity right now, but I'm excited that they're working on it. All right, number 9. This is an interesting one. My number 9 game is The Forgotten City. Now that might sound very similar, or very familiar, I should say, to some of you. Again, those of you who come hang out on my Skyrim streams every Sunday at 7 p.m. Pacific time at twitch.tv/theasmrnerd. The Forgotten City began its life as a very ambitious Skyrim mod by a modder named Modern Storyteller. And it was so successful that it actually won some awards for writing. And it was really, really good. And I actually played through this mod on my Twitch stream. And we had a fantastic time. It was engaging and interesting, and I was a little bit stupid, but with the help of the audience, we figured our way through. It's got a crazy, slight spoilers here, but it's got a crazy time travel kind of story. I won't say anything more than that because I don't want to spoil it. But anyway, it was so successful that Modern Storyteller has formed a studio and is developing this into a standalone game, obviously not set in Skyrim or Tamriel. He's devised a new setting for it. It looks to be kind of classical, like Greek or Roman almost. But I think the main beats of the story will be kept intact. And again, I won't talk about it here, pardon me, or spoil it here, but it is really worth playing. If you have Skyrim, you want a good quest mod for it, check out the Forgotten City. And I'm excited to see what comes out of a fully fleshed out standalone game. On one hand, it's a bit of a bummer because I kind of know the story already, I guess, but on the other hand, I think that they'll probably build it out a bit. And the cool thing about that game was that there was so many ways that you could, or that mod, I should say, so many ways you could end that story. It was very, very dependent upon player choice and player actions. And I feel like there's a lot to it that I never actually got to explore. I know there are parts of that mod that I didn't see, characters and endings and things. So really looking forward to checking that stuff out in the standalone Forgotten City game. Okay, on to number 8. This is Fallout 76. And you might be a little bit shocked that this is so far down on my list. And don't get me wrong, I'm very keen to see what Bethesda does with Fallout 76. For those of you who may not have been following the news, Fallout 76 is a brand new Fallout game announced by Bethesda Game Studios. They've been working on it since 2013, so it was developed partly in tandem with Fallout 4, and it actually grew out of a desire to have multiplayer in Fallout 4. But they decided that that wasn't doable. It just couldn't be done in the time frame or in the way they wanted. So they decided to grow it out into this standalone thing. It's going to be coming out this November. And it's got a strong focus on teaming up with other players and survival in a massive multiplayer environment. The map in Fallout 76 is actually going to be 4 times the size of that in Fallout 4, which was already a pretty sizable map. It's set in the hills of West Virginia, and so the natural environment is largely intact there because it wasn't explicitly nuked, unlike major urban centers like DC, Boston, right? And so, screen's turning off on me there. And so I really like the rural setting. I like the concept, I think, of a Fallout survival game. I'm not sold on the multiplayer component. I would love a co-op type game where I could go through a single player Elder Scrolls or Fallout, like a Bethesda single player game, but have the option to do that with a friend. But I just feel like there's a lot of opportunities for griefing and things like that in Fallout 76. The servers will have, I think they said, between 24 and 30 people on them. And they've clarified that there is no way to play entirely solo. There will always be other people in your game with you, and it is an always online game. But there are ways, although Todd Howard, game director at Bethesda, was very cagey or very vague about what exactly he means when he says there are ways to avoid PvP, more or less. But it doesn't sound like it's fully opt-in, or opt-out or whatever. Like, he was talking about there's like reward structures in place to make it so that there's less likely to be griefing. But if I don't want to engage with other people at all, I'm not sure, I don't think I have that option. So anyway, I'm interested in what Fallout 76 could be. I think there's a lot of potential there, but I'm also kind of worried that it's this forced, always online, always multiplayer experience. It's going to live and die by, how people act in the game, I guess. Like, whether it's possible for people to go around and just be total dicks. And, Bethesda Game Studios, they're smart guys. They know their design. I'm sure that they've thought about this stuff through and through, and they've also said it's going to be a living game. Of course, they're going to be responsive to player feedback. There'll be regular updates and patches and content drops and all that kind of stuff. So, okay. I am trusting them. I'm willing to give it a shot. So that is Fallout 76. All right, number 7 on my list is a sip of beer. That's really good. Number 7 on my list is a little game called Tunic. And this game was not announced at E3 this year. It was announced last year, I believe. And it actually made it onto my top 10 list last year, which some of you may remember if you've been kicking around the channel for a while. But Tunic is this incredibly charming looking little game where you play as a little fox who looks a lot like Link in some ways. And really this is a very Zelda-like game in a lot of ways. The classic type of Zelda, like the top-down, like isometric type of Zelda. It looks like this little adventure game where you play this little fox, and the environments look beautiful. The combat looks pretty fun. It just, it oozes this adorable style. And it just, it really captures my heart, I guess. It just looks so sweet. But also really well made and really interesting. So I don't know much more about Tunic than that, but I am so on board with it and ready to play it when it drops. I can't remember, or I don't know, if they announced a release date yet. I imagine they must have, but, because it's been shown off a couple times now. But I don't know it. So, anyway, that's Tunic. All right, my number 6 game on this eclectic list is something I never expected to have on a top 10 of E3 list, but it's a mobile game. Well, I should say it's a mobile first game, and it's the Elder Scrolls Blades. So those of you who watched the Bethesda press conference would have seen Todd talking quite enthusiastically about this game. And it is an Elder Scrolls game that is designed for mobile first, but will also be coming to other platforms, including, it sounded like everything, really. I know they want to bring it to PC, probably major consoles. I wouldn't be surprised if it shows up on Switch. And they said it would even be coming to VR, and there'd be cross-play between many of these platforms. So this is an incredibly ambitious sounding mobile game. It's a first-person RPG in classic Elder Scrolls style. It's going to have dungeon crawling. It's going to have overworld exploration, quests. It's going to have town building, and like you get to design your own town, it sounds like, from a town that was reduced to rubble. You kind of build it up over the course of the game. It's going to have PvP, like an arena mode. It's going to have roguelike elements, an endless dungeon mode. So this sounds hugely ambitious for a mobile game. And it is playable in either landscape or portrait formats when you're playing it on your phone. So, and it looks great to boot. Like, the graphics look wonderful. My only reservation about the Elder Scrolls Blades is that it is a free-to-play game. They said it's going to be absolutely free, and they were all very excited about that, but that to me suggests that, of course, they have to monetize it by some other means, which means there will be microtransactions. The question is whether those microtransactions will be pay to win, whether they'll be strictly cosmetic, whether they'll be pay for convenience, or something else entirely. And they did not go into any explanation of what their business model is for Blades, but I am leery. I just wish that they charged, I don't know, 30 bucks, say, for it upfront. I would happily pay that for a great mobile Elder Scrolls game. But my feeling is that, yeah, it's going to be riddled with microtransactions. I just hope they're of the variety that's easier to stomach. Because it would be a real shame if they built this really cool, ambitious, fun game and then hobbled it with microtransactions like we've seen other studios do in past. But I trust Bethesda to make the right choices. I think that they'll do right by us, but we'll see. Maybe I'll be eating my words come November, I think. No, they didn't say November, they just said fall. So it's coming out in the fall of this year. But when exactly, we don't know yet. So that's my number 6 game. My number 5 game is another Bethesda game. This is a recurring theme on this list, but that's because, as many of you know, I'm a huge fan of Bethesda Game Studios and their games. So, number 5 is Starfield. And Starfield is the new massive single-player game from Bethesda Game Studios. It has been their focus for many, many years by the sounds of it. This is kind of the next big thing. Instead of a Fallout or an Elder Scrolls game next, we're getting Starfield. This is a sci-fi single-player game. And other than that, we know almost nothing about it. It was teased towards the very end of the Bethesda press conference. There's a little teaser video. It was very short, just gave us a taste of the flavor of the setting of Starfield. You see an icy planet and the depths of space and some kind of space station that looks kind of near future-ish. Not like sort of the slick sci-fi fantasy of Mass Effect, but something like a little bit more hard science fiction is what it evokes anyway. And then there's some kind of crazy thing at the end of this trailer, like I don't know, some kind of cataclysm or explosion or like a warp rift or something. It's really hard to tell. Very ambiguous intentionally, I'm sure. But certainly it has my attention, and I am really excited to see anything that Bethesda puts this much time and effort into. This is what they've been developing primarily at their Maryland-based studio, whereas Elder Scrolls Blades has been developed largely in Montreal with assistance from the Maryland studio. And my understanding is that Fallout 76 has been worked on extensively by both their Maryland studio and their Austin, Texas studio. But Starfield has been their main focus, I think. And I'm excited in particular because this, as Todd pointed out, is their first new IP in, what do you say, 25 years? Something like that? Since, or their first original IP. Of course, they took on Fallout in the mid-2000s, but that was not an original IP by them. So the Elder Scrolls Arena was their last original in-house IP. So this the sci-fi concept of Starfield is something that I know that Todd Howard has been kicking around in his head for a long time, and they've been building the concept of this game as Todd said, over lunchtime discussions for over a decade easily. So, really excited to see what that becomes. No release date for Starfield yet. I am predicting, this is my prediction, I'm guessing that we will see more of it at next year's E3, or any of it. We'll see gameplay at E3 next year. And maybe we'll see it release next November. That's, I think, a fairly likely timeline. But we'll see. We'll see. These guys certainly do take their time. But really excited to see what Starfield is all about. Okay, number 4. Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee. So, these games are coming to Switch. They are reimaginings of the Kanto region, which is the region from the Indigo League, the very first, Pokemon Red, Blue, and Yellow. Specifically, these games are patterned after Pokemon Yellow, and they're coming out this year, later this year, I think November as well. It's going to be a busy November. To be timed with the 20th anniversary of Pokemon Yellow. And they are something that there's something new for the Pokemon series. They're not a core series game. Those are being worked on. There will be core series Pokemon games on the Switch coming out in the future. But these are something that sits in between a core series game and a casual game like Pokemon Go. And they do in fact have a lot of Pokemon Go integration. You can transfer Pokemon from Pokemon Go. But they've got a lot of other interesting changes as well. You do wander the overworld, in the top-down kind of camera angle. Catching Pokemon, however, has been completely overhauled. When you encounter wild Pokemon, you don't actually battle them. Just like in Pokemon Go, you'll feed them berries and things like that to try and make them easier to catch. And then there's a similar catching, like Pokeball throwing mechanic, where you use the Joy-Con on the Switch to toss a Pokeball. Or if you are playing mobile and you have the whole Switch, you flick the whole thing, I think is how it works. Something like that. Anyway, so that's a pretty big change. The way the Pokemon stats are being presented is changed a little bit, but there are also trainer battles, which is more traditional, where you have your move list and things like that. But perhaps the most exciting thing for me about Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee is that there's co-op for the first time, as far as I can remember, the first time in a Pokemon game. You'll be able to adventure with another person. It's local co-op only, is my understanding, but that sounds really fun to me. I really want to play this with my girlfriend, where we can both kind of adventure through together. And I know a lot of people were really upset by this announcement because it sounded like it was this huge departure from the core series, but it was still just rehashing Kanto, and it just didn't sound super ambitious, but it also sounded kind of weird. I was really excited when they announced it, to be honest. I always love going back to Kanto. But I think a lot of those people that were initially upset have become more complacent once they heard that there are core series games in development, and that this is kind of an in-betweeny kind of game. So anyway, I'm quite excited for Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. I haven't decided which version I'm going to get yet. I think I'm going to go with Eevee. But we'll see. We'll see. Okay, on to the top 3. My number 3 game is Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Gotta hurry up with this. I've got lots of this. I've just been sipping it. It's very good. Assassin's Creed Odyssey. So, some of you might have seen that I've put up some Assassin's Creed Origins videos on the channel. Assassin's Creed Origins Origins is set in ancient Egypt, and they did such a phenomenal job of bringing that setting to life in Origins. I've been loving AC Origins, and I'm still playing through it because it's an enormous game. I think I've probably got 40 hours in so far, and I bet you I've got at least another 40 to go. It is huge. Probably more than that, honestly, left to go. And it's really good. They changed a lot of things about the Assassin's Creed formula. I mean, a lot of stuff stayed the same too, but combat's been overhauled. There's just a lot of... It feels like a more free game than any of the previous Assassin's Creeds, and in that it is an open world game, of course. And there's RPG elements like equipment and things like that. Assassin's Creed Odyssey is going to be set in ancient Greece, which is one of my very favorite settings and historical periods. And it is going even further in the RPG direction, which I am thrilled by. It's going to have full dialogue with player dialogue choices. It has a full equipment system with, both weapons and armor pieces. So you can swap out individual pieces of armor like your helmet and your body piece and all that. They're really going and investing in this RPG concept, which really excites me. So I think that's scheduled to come out later this year. I've watched some of the preview footage and gameplay, and it looks very, very similar to Origins, which I'm quite happy with, but just even further in an RPG direction, which is really exciting to me. And the setting, you have no idea how excited I am to see ancient Greece brought to life in such beauty. Like, Origins is a beautiful game. Odyssey looks to be even more beautiful. So yeah, I am really, really hype for Odyssey. I hope it's good. If it's like Origins, I think it'll be excellent. All right, number 2 on the list. We're getting down there now. There's something that you guys are probably expecting me to talk about, and that's coming up, but this one too, maybe. Number 2, Cyberpunk 2077. This is the new game from CD Projekt Red. They of The Witcher 3, which is a fantastic game, and I've still not finished. I gotta go back and play more of that because it's just such a beast of a game. Just enormous, but so well made. And Cyberpunk 2077 looks to be absolutely incredible. It's set in the Cyberpunk universe, which is a tabletop role-playing universe that I've never played in myself, but it looks fascinating. And this is a bit of a departure from The Witcher in that it's a first-person RPG with first-person shooting. But it sounds like The Witcher, it's going to retain the complex characterization and moral choices and these really sort of meaningful, interesting side quests and things like that. I have read a little bit about what they presented at E3, and I certainly watched the trailer that they put out, and it just looks dazzling, to be honest. It sounds incredible. And if there's any studio that I trust to do an amazing job of something like this, it is CD Projekt Red. So I cannot wait to see what Cyberpunk 2077 is. No release date, as far as I know. It wouldn't surprise me to see it come out late next year, like late 2019. But I could imagine it getting pushed back further than that, maybe to early 2020. Although it sounds like what they showed at E3 was very complete, or complete looking anyway. And it was a long demo, like a 50-minute long demo that they showed to journalists. So we'll see. But I hope we're playing it sooner rather than later because I'm very excited for Cyberpunk. All right, last but not least on my list here, number 1. You guys might have guessed it. It's the Elder Scrolls 6, which was announced and teased by Todd Howard at the very end of the Bethesda press conference. And I feel kind of bad putting it in my number 1 spot because they showed so little. It was a very brief teaser trailer, just kind of a flyover of this very arid, somewhat mountainous looking landscape with what looks like the ocean off to the right hand side. They kind of come out of clouds and come over this more open terrain, and the Elder Scrolls theme plays over top of it in this very kind of brazen, bold, very heavy with horns kind of rendition. And that's it. That's all we got to see. And when Todd Howard presented it, you could really get the feeling that he was doing it because people just wouldn't shut up about it. And he just wanted to say, like, look, okay, guys, we're working on it. It's coming one day, but stop asking us about it. I really got that feeling. And I can't blame him too much, because I know that they've been hard at work on Fallout 76 and, of course, Starfield. And I know that they being Bethesda, they were feeling, I think, really keen to work on this fresh IP of Starfield. I guess what I'm trying to say is that they've been working on the Elder Scrolls for a very long time, and if you watch the No Clip documentary, No Clip is a YouTube channel of Danny O'Dwyer, formerly of GameSpot, now of independent No Clip, and he does these fantastic documentaries about video games and video game studios, and he has one about the development of Fallout 76. And in that, he also asks Todd Howard about the future, about Starfield, about Elder Scrolls 6. And Todd basically says that he's spent more time working on the Elder Scrolls than anything else in his life. Not even working, but just more time with the Elder Scrolls than anything else. Than his family, than his kids, than any other aspect of his life. And you have to imagine that when someone spends so much time on something, they do need a break from time to time to, rekindle the passion. So, anyway, I understand why he wants people to stop asking about Elder Scrolls 6 because they've got lots of other exciting stuff coming up before that. That being said, I couldn't not put this game at number 1 because it is without a doubt the game that I am most looking forward to ever of all time, period. You guys know how much I love Skyrim, how invested I am in that universe. Morrowind, probably my favorite game of all time. Oblivion, amazing memories. Skyrim, incredibly, incredibly special to me. So Elder Scrolls 6 is, without a doubt, my number 1 most anticipated game right now. And they did show us a little bit. I did not expect to see anything of Elder Scrolls 6 at this year's E3, but they did give us that little tidbit. There are videos online that analyze the crap out of that little teaser. There's one from Camelworks where he goes into great depth about, he thinks it's probably Hammerfell. And I think he's probably correct. But there's a very vocal contingent that believes it's High Rock, and that could also be correct. But I would put good money on one of those 2 provinces anyway for the location. But they go pixel by pixel analysis and all these theories, and you can go look at that stuff there if you guys are really keen. I could do a soft-spoken video in this style where we talk about where the Elder Scrolls 6 might be set, based off of what we saw in the teaser and any other information that we have. Please do let me know if that's something you'd like to see, because it might be kind of fun. And I'd be happy to do it. But yeah, just throw a comment down there if you'd like to see a video like that. But if I don't end up doing it, there's lots of other people that have covered it. So, anyway, I just want to know what it is, and I just want to play it. I am so excited, especially because Todd, last year, I believe, said something to the effect of, or maybe it was 2 years ago now, he basically said that the technology wasn't there for what they wanted to do with Elder Scrolls 6 yet. And there was an interview this year, just after the Bethesda E3 conference, where Todd was talking to, I can't remember his name, you know, the VGA guy, the guy, his name is just left my mind. Anyway, you know the guy I'm talking about. It'll come to me in a moment, but anyway, Todd is basically asked if the technology is there yet, like we're there now, for what he envisions for Elder Scrolls 6, and he said, we're getting there. We're getting there. Which makes me think that Elder Scrolls 6 is probably going to be a next-gen title on whatever comes after PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. Maybe not, but I'm pretty sure. I think we're a couple of years away yet from Elder Scrolls 6. I'm going to say optimistically, maybe 2020, November 2020. I think it's much more likely it's 2021 or 2022. I saw someone suggest it would be pretty great if they put out Elder Scrolls 6 on the, like, I guess, 2/22/22, like February 22nd, 2022, or something like that. But you know, because Skyrim, of course, came out on 11/11/11. But that would be crazy, too. That would be 11 years in between them. But could happen. It sounds like they've got lots of other crazy stuff planned in between, so. All right, well, this is getting to be a fairly lengthy video, so I think I'm going to wrap this up here. The one thing I wanted to say is that there was a notable no-show this year at E3 2018, and that was, for me at least, Age of Empires 4. It was announced last year. We know nothing about it, nothing about the setting, time period. All we know is that it's in development, and it's being developed by Relic, which is pretty exciting because Relic has made some very good RTSs in past, in the form of Company of Heroes and the Warhammer Dawn of War games. So they certainly know their RTS stuff, and I'm very keen to see what they do with Age of Empires 4. I'm thinking we'll probably see some of AoE 4 at Gamescom this year. That's my prediction. I think they held it back at E3 so that they could show it off at Gamescom, but could be wrong. We'll see. I'll be keeping an eye out anyway. Well, my friends, that is my list, my top 10 games of E3 2018. I hope you enjoyed the discussion today. And of course, I would love to hear your top games of this year's E3. There was lots of cool stuff. There were lots of smaller and interesting looking games that didn't make my list, but that are on my radar. Like, there's one called Ghost Giant, which is a VR game. I think it's PSVR exclusive, which is a shame, but it looks really charming. Obviously, all kinds of other interesting looking games, like Death Stranding looks crazy. Yeah, just lots of really neat stuff, but I would be really curious to hear what your games are, so please check out the comments down below. Feel free to let me know what you really enjoyed about this year's E3 and what you thought of my top 10 list as well. I'll try and spend some time down in the comments chatting with you guys as well. But in the meantime, I hope you enjoyed today's video, and I look very forward to having you back here next time. Bye for now, guys.